Light travels at 186,000 miles per second. If you multiply it times 60, light travels 11,160,000 miles in 1 minute. Multiply that times 60, light travels in 1 hour, 669,600,000 miles, and it's been doing it ever since Genesis 1:3 for obedience. Why, if we are not wanting light to change, to put light on this situation, why would we ever think about changing the Constitution? Why would he ever think about touching the Second Amendment? Because it is proven true. It has proven the way for America, for African Americans especially, to protect themselves and to stand. Light traveling at 669,600,000 miles an hour. If you want to do it in a day, would you like to do it in a day? You multiply 669 million times 24. Light travels in 1 hour. Hold on. 16 billion, 70 million, 400,000 miles in 1 hour. Doing it since Genesis 1:3. Has not slowed down, has not found any excuse. I have never heard light say, well, I better not travel this fast because people are not going to understand it. Times change. And they're going to think I'm dealing with me and I'm bragging about myself. I never heard light say that. And as pastors and as Christians, as African Americans, we're not going to change our thoughts on what is right and what is needed to be done. Yeah. Well, now see, now that's 16 billion, 70 million, 400,000, I said, in a day. It's easy to get how far light travels in a year. Would you like that? You multiply 16 billion, 70 million, 400,000 times 365. Now, you got to put your mind together to multiply that number. Light travels in 1 year. 5 trillion, 865 billion, 696 million miles. And I know it's a lot of you whites out there saying, hey, there ain't nowhere in the world a black man can figure that out. And we're going to check his numbers when we get out of here. Guaranteed that it does. It is so important for all of us to understand that light has been traveling 5 trillion, 865 billion, 696 million miles since Genesis 1:3, being obedient to God. We haven't been here any amount of time as long as light has. But we do know what light reveals. And this is what I have questions for all of you that is listening. How long? How many children has to die before we come to the conclusion that the issue about the Second Amendment is not about protecting kids, it's about changing the Constitution? How many children got to die before we admit that? How many children has to die before we come to common sense, which we have lost much in America today? It's not much common sense left. But how many of us are going to allow children to continue to die, to put signs in front of our schools to invite people to come in and kill them? What are you talking about, Pastor? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. How many of you would put in front of your house a sign that says gun-free zone? How many of you would put in front of your house, I have diamonds, I have gold, I have silver, I have precious metals, I have some great expensive artifacts, and I am not home. My dogs that are guard dogs are locked up, and I won't be home until 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. Would you put that sign in front of your house? But yet and still we want to put gun-free zones in front of our schools. How many black children has to die before you even care? Why isn't all the children that have been destroyed in all of our cities, black on black crime, don't get any front page news, but you get a Sandy Hook? And what happens? Everybody's in an uproar. We've had 10 times more African American children killed with guns. Because you know what? How many children have to die, black and white, for us to come to the conclusion that most of the gun violence is in cities with the most gun control? When are we going to change our minds and put some common sense in there? When are we going to come to the conclusion that privacy may not be as important as a life? We need to know how many children is going to die before we change the HIPAA laws. How many children have to die before we get these lunatics, half of them, and people with mental issues off the streets? But because of their privacy, we can't do anything about it. And oftentimes families struggle to get them institutionalized. So how many children, and last of all, how many children has to die, my friends, before we come to the realization that a bad man with a gun can only be stopped by a good man with a gun? Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, my pastor. I am so pleased that you traveled so far to be here with us today. We have people from all over the country who have traveled. But next we have a local here in Washington, D.C., Mr. Harry C. Alford. He's the co-founder and president and CEO of the National Black Chamber of Commerce. But he represents people all across this country because his chamber represents 2 million black businesses in the United States. Harry Alford is going to talk on this particular issue today, gun control, but they handle a variety of issues. He is not a stranger in the halls of Congress and even consulting sometimes with the White House. Harry Alford.
Star said, I'm Harry Alford. I represent 2.1 million black-owned businesses in the United States. We have 140 chapters in the United States and 95 chapters elsewhere, Africa, Europe, South America, the Caribbean. Our business owners, many of them have retail stores, they have restaurants, they have cash operations. One of our previous board chair has a concrete plant in New Orleans. After Katrina wiped out everybody, streets, curbs, driveways, his business was booming. But he had to have Brinks trucks come to his company twice a day, and he had 2 of his employees armed to the teeth, because he was not going to let his business go down because of some bad guys. I want to thank the Lord for our Constitution. I also want to thank the NRA for its legacy. The National Rifle Association was founded by religious leaders who wanted to protect free slaves from the Ku Klux Klan. They would raise money, buy arms, show the free slaves how to use those arms and protect their families. God bless you. Many of us probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the NRA. Rodney King showed an interesting model. When the riots started in LA and they started wiping out neighborhoods, mostly in South Central, when the rioters got to Koreatown, the violence stopped. Because every male Korean associated with those stores stood outside, they drew a line and held their weapons. Come across that line, you're dropping. And they meant it. Okay, let's go back to South Central, because people there don't have guns to protect themselves. It is a right just to live in Southern California, where I'm from. You've got diamond head, copperhead rattlers, you've got scorpions, you've got coyotes, you have mountain lions. One of my neighbors lost his German Shepherd to a mountain lion that came into his backyard. German Shepherd put up a fight. All he could do was watch, because he didn't have a gun. Just a fire in the air to scare the mountain lion. And the shepherd went off with the mountain lion. What if you're living in Florida and a python snake's in your yard between you and your infant child, or between you and your pet? What are you going to do? I think God gives you the right, and the Constitution does, to protect that child or that animal or your house. My people are from Louisiana. You're fishing, water moccasins, alligators. They show up. They don't knock on the door. You got to deal with it. You don't walk outside. If you're a farmer, you have to deal with these farmers. So it's part of our lives. But what's going on here, I think, politically, in this town, is a mind game. This is a diversion to keep you off the thought of this poor economy, which generates crime. This is about crime, and it's trying to divert your attention away from it, because they can't create jobs. I've got 2 quotes from people who know what they're talking about. Bruce Weinberg, PhD, Ohio State University. Public officials can put more cops on the beat, pass tougher sentencing laws, and take other steps to reduce crime. But there are limits to how much these can do. We found that a bad labor market has a profound impact on the crime rates. The Review of Economics and Statistics. As wages go down and unemployment goes up, crime goes up, driving businesses and residents out of the community. This in turn causes more unemployment, which causes more crime, a spiral dive situation from which it is difficult to recover. My friends, what we need to do is create jobs.
create businesses. Small businesses hire 70% of all the new jobs. They create a thriving economy, less crime. But by all means, and let me deviate from Psalms, Pastor, though I walk through the valley of the death, I fear no evil, because I am the meanest, nastiest, fiercest person walking in that valley.